reflect on a little bit of what today may mean in terms of what we've seen in China passing this milestone. It's an important one, but as Mike said, 20 days without that internal transmission doesn't mean we don't have virus, right? And staying alert. But it provides an opportunity to reflect a little bit on what we saw when we were in China. And I think three things were particularly striking that are helpful at this point in this pandemic. The first was just the investment. Maria referred to this in the public health infrastructure at the national level, at the state level that we went to, province level, pardon me, and then as we got into the municipalities and right down to the community level, there was a public health infrastructure right through all levels of the country that could talk to the different pieces and could move information, move learnings, and some things were particularly striking. They could update their national guidance in a country of over 1 billion people every week and get that right out through their system so people could stay current. It was very, very striking when you get out to those peripheral levels and saw just how up to date they were, and they had the latest information on how to track and deal with this disease. But I think probably more striking were two other things that we saw. The first was, of those, or the second thing overall, was just the sense of individual responsibility that we saw in the Chinese people. When you travel around the country for 3 weeks and you're staying in hotels, you're traveling in trains, you're in restaurants or various places, socially distanced, very distant often, but you do meet a lot of people, a lot of Chinese individuals, and their sense of responsibility for keeping the world safe, keeping their communities safe, for doing the right thing was probably the most striking thing we saw, that sense of collective responsibility. And when you would talk about the sacrifices that were being made, it was their duty, both for their own country and globally, which was so impressive. And then the third thing we saw, I think Maria might remember, that was so striking was in many of the municipalities and provinces that we were in, cases were at that point starting to come down, in some provinces down to quite low levels. And we would ask, well, what's happening and what next to the mayors or the governors of these big provinces and cities? And they would say, well, and we heard it every single place we went. They said, well, we're buying ventilators and we're building more beds and we're doing this, we're doing that. There was, and we were just struck by the incredible effort to build additional capacity and preparedness to be able to deal with what they realized would be an ongoing threat for some time. And I think all of those things are part of the reason that we're seeing today the very low levels of transmission that hopefully can be maintained. But it certainly won't be possible without that continued dedication to all three pieces of what was rather striking in terms of the response that we saw there.
Thank you, Dr. Aylward. Now we will go to Jeremy Lange from Radio France Internationale. Jeremy, can